All right, so our first storyteller, Rebecca Kling, is an educator, performer, community organizer, storyteller, and advocate for social change. Rebecca's art and advocacy work is rooted with the understanding that there is no one right way to communicate that will land with everybody. For over a decade, she has worked with hundreds of community organizations, civil rights groups, and elected representatives to elevate the experience of transgender people and to bring transgender issues into discussion of public education and policy. Rebecca firmly believes that understanding combats bigotry and that everyone has the ability to push for a more just and equitable world. To learn more, check out Rebecca's website, www.rebeccakling.com. I am thrilled to have Rebecca kick off tonight's show, and she will make her way up here.
Thank you. Wonderful to be back in this space. So lovely to see you all tonight. I have this running joke with my queer friends about becoming the first trans person to do something very specific and very mundane. I want to be remembered as the first trans person to ever disrupt traffic by jaywalking. I'll be the first trans person to ever take the red eye from Seattle to DC. I'll be the first trans person to ever poop in the Starbucks bathroom at the Starbucks on Foster that's near Lawrence by the PetSmart. This running joke comes from these two trans women I once met, politicians in Texas. One of them said she was the first trans woman to ever hold elected office in Texas. The other said she was the first trans woman to ever be elected to office in Texas. See, the one of them had been appointed, so she was technically the first to hold office, but the other had been elected, so she was the first to be elected to office. They both found this slice of history that they could claim for themselves, even if it took some wordsmithing. Wanting to be the first at something, I think, requires imagining what the future could look like, how to get from here to there. But I grew up really trying not to think about the future. It was safer to leave my own future untold, unthought about, a sort of fog that was cozy if I didn't think about it too hard. The future was scary and dangerous. Best not to dwell on it. Now, I learned this because as an elder millennial approaching 40, I was online in the late 90s. Come back with me to this world of dial-up internet and AOL CDs and a shared family computer in a room that anyone could walk into at any point at all, no matter what you were doing on that computer. At any point at all. Both of my parents are here tonight. It was through that computer, though, that I started to put language to this thing that I'd always known, that boy didn't fit. But the websites that talked about being trans in the late 90s, they were bad. And I don't just mean bad visually, although they were bad visually. They had bouncing pixels and weird fonts and these effects that would cause your cursor to have sparkles behind it wherever it went. The content was pretty awful, too. These websites were mostly written by older trans women who, with the best of intentions, told the world and told me that being transsexual, this is before the move from transsexual to transgender, which is a whole other thing, that being transsexual came at a huge cost. That finding yourself required losing everything. Friends, family, community, home, stability. I didn't like the sound of that, but the only other material I could find about being trans was daytime talk shows and, of course, porn. As I explored the internet of the late 90s, though, I encountered things like the Coggiati test, the combined gender identity and transsexuality inventory. This was a multiple choice test that was supposed to be able to tell you whether or not you were a closeted transsexual woman. I was drawn like a moth to the flame, and for some reason, this test is still online, so I was able to look up some of the questions. Question 6. You meet somebody, and they are polite to you but seem a little distant. They're actually secretly attracted to you. How likely are you to know this? Question 45. In your early days at school, how were you at spelling? Question 62. Visualize the following entirely in your head. Do not draw or write anything, just use your mind. Picture a pair of cubes. The two cubes are connected by a bar through their middle, like a dumbbell. Imagine the dumbbell object is floating in front of you, one cube close to you, the other directly away from you. Now imagine that the cube nearest you is red and the cube farthest from you is blue. The dumbbell is built of two cubes and begins to rotate. The red cube nearer dropping down in the way, the blue far rotating up and nearer. The dumbbell continues to rotate down, stand vertical in front of you, the red cube at the bottom, blue cube at the top, continue the direction of the rotation over 3 times exactly starting at the stop with the red cube in the bottom, blue cube at the top. What is the position of either cube, red or blue? If you are thinking, what does that have to do with being trans? That instinct is correct. The person who made that test, I have learned, was just a random trans woman. Not an expert, not someone who was able to offer that from a place of wisdom. As a teen, though, this very unscientific test told me I probably wasn't a transsexual woman, which, spoiler alert, incorrect. I've recently been watching home videos from my childhood of my older brother and I catching fireflies in the backyard, of our family hiking in the woods, of learning to ride a bike. There's one video I keep coming back to of my mom and my brother working on a cake for his 5th or 6th birthday. It's the late 80s, and they're in this amazingly yellow and beige kitchen. Roller chairs and a big linoleum table. My dad is filming. In most of these home videos, he's the one filming and not visible in the camera shot. And I sit on the counter behind my mother, behind my brother, with a bowl of batter next to me, just shoveling handfuls into my mouth. I love this short clip. I'm maybe 3 at the oldest. And it can't be longer than a minute or 2, but I'm so uninhibited and happy. Videos have their own sort of destiny to them, especially home movies. No matter how many times you watch them, the same thing happens. The outcome is unchanging and predetermined. As an adolescent, I could only conceive of 2 destinies for myself, 2 ways to be trans. I could be a lonely transsexual making sad websites with poor color choices, or I could be a transsexual porn star who ended up on Jerry Springer. I couldn't imagine an option C of living my life the best I could, neither dispensing sad advice online nor guesting on Springer. Maybe that's why I don't like the idea of destiny, let alone a burden of destiny. I don't like my imagining that my future is outside of my own control. Of course, while I did avoid those 2 specific destinies, there are lots of things about my future, about all of our futures, that are outside of our control. Not just the body I was born into, or the family, or the life, but much bigger things like the level of global carbon, the actions of the US Supreme Court, Donald fucking Trump. But on good days, I still am able to find hope, because I know from experience that tomorrow can be better than today, that things can change. I also know we all can have a role in making it better. A teeny push here and there every day, hopefully, and then occasionally together in big pushes like, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna spitball here, say an election? Which, come to think of it, there's one coming up. That's right, this was all just a ruse, a ploy to get you to vote. No, I'm thank you for the one person who's in favor of voting. Let the record show one person likes to vote here. No, I'm not going to go into a big Pollyannish thing. Voting doesn't solve everything. Voting is a tiny piece of the puzzle. And I'm excited to hear more stories about other pieces of that puzzle tonight. Likewise, democracy doesn't guarantee a better future, but we can build that better future. Destiny be damned. Take it from me, the first trans woman to poop in a Starbucks. Thank you.